We're only a couple months away from E3 2019, and Microsoft is really making it a point to get their overall brand with Xbox ready for the huge announcement that they're likely going to drop this summer. And with that, a ton of news outlets and other gaming media outlets are reporting on all of these small announcements and changes that Microsoft is doing as an overall brand. But at the same time, it seems like a lot of people still don't have the overall picture of what it looks like Xbox and Microsoft are setting up to do in this next generation, which is completely different from anything they've ever done before. But from what they've told us, what they've revealed, and the actions that they've made, it's more obvious than it might look on the surface. No pun intended. Ever since the initial announcement of the Xbox One back in 2013, Microsoft has been playing catch up in the gaming industry. To put it simply, PlayStation completely blew Xbox out of the water in this last console race. And it's really not that surprising. Overall, the PlayStation just had a ton of exclusives. There wasn't as much controversy upon the release as to what type of functions people would be able to do with their console, and a Kinect wasn't required to buy the console at launch. Sure, Microsoft has come a long way and has played a huge game of catch-up, launching some really awesome services like Xbox Live Games with Gold and the Xbox Live Game Pass, but at the end of the day, the exclusives have really lacked on the Xbox. For the most part, it's been Halo, a couple other games here and there, but Halo! And even then, the Master Chief Collection was broken at launch, and Halo 5 just didn't live up to the full expectations of Halo fans. But in more recent years, we've actually noticed a really huge shift from Xbox as to what they're trying to do with their brand as a whole, and while there's a ton of money to be made making video game consoles, it's pretty obvious that from the very beginning, Microsoft has seen gaming as a service as a more lucrative business model. That's why they launched Xbox Live as a paid subscription originally way back in the day, and that's why they launched a second service with the Xbox Live Game Pass. And while exclusives have been slow on the Xbox compared to the PlayStation 4 or the Nintendo Switch, Microsoft has been very open to the idea of cross-platform play, allowing players to connect together in ways that have never been seen in the gaming industry before. The Xbox app on the PC allows players on the PC to talk to other players on Xbox, and a lot of the new exclusives that did release are available for PC players to buy or get for free with their Game Pass subscriptions. For a company that should have the emphasis of trying to get people to buy their consoles, they're really letting players play the games however they want to play. They were the first people to make Minecraft available as cross-play on all platforms except PlayStation until Sony changed their policy, which is something they really didn't have to do at all. They could have just let the Nintendo Switch, PC players, Android, and iPhone players all play individually and separately, but instead Microsoft decided to go through the effort of making their games interconnective. And I think this really actually helped build relationships with Nintendo, for example, who recently just announced that Xbox Live, to some extent, is going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch platform. And this ties in to everything as to what Xbox is setting up to do in this next generation of consoles, including the other announcement, or leak, or whatever you want to call it, that Microsoft is going to be revealing two different consoles at E3 this year. First, if we go back to last year, at the very end of E3, it was announced that Microsoft was planning on rolling out their own Xbox streaming service. Essentially, the idea behind it, called the xCloud, would be there will be Xboxes set up in server farms, and players will be able to connect to these servers and play the Xboxes and have all the gameplay streamed directly to their own device wherever they are. They'd be able to play on a TV or on an iPhone or an Android phone or a Microsoft Surface tablet. This technology is extremely impressive, and there are other companies out there that offer a similar service in either game streaming or computer streaming, but at the end of the day, the infrastructure that they have isn't set up in the same way that Microsoft has. I mean, simply put, these existing streaming services just don't have the server capacity to make this service readily available to anyone. So a few months ago, Microsoft showed off the xCloud and how it would work, and it's pretty clear that Microsoft has the infrastructure to do something large scale like this if they wanted to. And as long as the latency is considered and the games don't run with a very high latency, it could be a hugely popular way to get Xbox to a ton of different people who might not have been able to play Xbox before, or might not have been interested in making that initial investment in buying a console like a lot of other gamers are. I mean, even in the gaming industry, the margins between building a console and all the parts that go into building the console, manufacturing the console, and marketing the console makes it very hard to make a profit off of the individual consoles. Majority of the profits are made through the add-on services like Xbox Live and the Xbox Game Pass. So if Microsoft can make an easy way for people to get the same or similar experiences that they could get on an Xbox, and get people signed up on Xbox Live and an Xbox Game Pass, and maybe a new subscription for the use of an Xbox service overall, their margins could actually be a lot better. And that's what we think Microsoft is doing. They're not actually trying to win the next console war, they're trying to be the Netflix of video games. I mean, let's look at what we know. Xbox is coming to Nintendo Switch in some form or another. There aren't a lot of details, but you already have to sign into your Xbox account on Minecraft on Nintendo Switch to play with players on other devices. We know the Nintendo Switch is capable of streaming games because Resident Evil in Japan was a streamable game, which is really interesting because that means that the Nintendo Switch has the hardware and capabilities of managing some sort of streaming software. And we also know that there's a leak of 2 Xbox consoles being announced this year at E3, which could be considered that maybe they're doing another Xbox One S and Xbox One X like they did over the past couple of years, or alternatively, they're going to introduce a very affordable Xbox option that's significantly cheaper than what maybe a PlayStation 5 will cost, that will allow players to stream games directly to a console. And this console would be very bare bones, and it really just acts as a streamable console, and that's it, but still have the overall accessibility of being able to do everything you used to be able to do on an Xbox. Imagine if it's just a very small, lightweight, router-sized console that lets people play any game online with their friends. Of course, there's still the more hardcore players who are going to be looking for having the games run natively on the console with the highest specs, and maybe there's some people in remote areas who just really can't get a fast enough internet connection, might look into buying the console to run the games natively. But if this xCloud project that Microsoft has shown off already is actually using the Microsoft Azure server cloud system that they've been developing for years, even people with relatively slow internet access or just basic internet speeds would be able to connect and use the Xbox Live service with little to no latency. I mean, if you are on the fence in choosing whether or not to buy an Xbox or a PlayStation 5, and that streamable Xbox is only something crazily priced like $99 or $150 for a streaming only Xbox that will give you the same experience, and of course we're talking if this actually works and, you know, people get their hands on it and review it and show that it works in an everyday setting, I think this would be a really great way for Xbox to get a really large market capture and user base back on the Xbox. And I'm all for this as long as there's still options in place for the regular console to still exist for the people who like the actual hardware. And even in more recent news, it looks like Microsoft has been doing some updates to DirectX, which looks like it's preparing PCs to run any Xbox game natively. This isn't exactly a for sure thing, but it definitely looks like they're making some major updates to how Windows runs certain things so that people will be able to play Xbox games on their PC natively if their computer, you know, can handle the game. Which looks like this new philosophy coming from Microsoft is really interesting and a unique way of handling things, because for the first time ever, players kind of will have the freedom to choose how they want to play any game that they want to play. If they want to have a beefy computer and play their games natively on there, they can play with the same people who are just streaming the games casually on the Nintendo Switch. And it's also kind of cool that this could be the beginning of phasing out even having a need for a super gaming computer if you can just stream everything in 4K quality one day. That might not be available right away at the beginning, and maybe we'll be stuck at 1080p for streaming, but it's 2019 and crossplay and being able to play with people everywhere should just be something that's just readily readily available. I think even games like Fortnite speak true to this because Fortnite has had crossplay enabled for a while and people have loved that function, and we see games like Rocket League also doing it, and even Sony slowly getting on board with it. If this service is going to launch successfully and get a lot of people hyped, getting it on Android and iPhone and all Windows 10 computers is a pretty awesome place to start, and maybe eventually it'll just come built in with smart TVs as an app, like some other smart TVs already have apps like Netflix built in. There's a ton of opportunities for Microsoft to make a lot of money doing partnerships with TV companies down the road by just kind of including it in the TV device. If we are correct on this, this could be the beginning of Microsoft pulling out of the console race and doing their own thing, which could be really, really cool if this works properly. And maybe one day Sony will actually allow Xbox on the PlayStation 5. It's kind of this weird and crazy idea, but did we ever really think we would see Nintendo and Xbox partner up in this way? We definitely think Sony would be the last people on board to let Xbox have their service just because they've been such a huge competitor for a long time, but it's a win-win for everyone if that did happen because people could still buy their PlayStations and sign up for Xbox Live and play all of the exclusive Halo games and Gears of War games on there, and both Sony and Microsoft make money. But at the same time, it's super convenient on the consumers and the gamers because all of a sudden, if we want to play all of the games, we don't have to go out and buy 3 consoles anymore. We can just play it on whatever we want to play it on, and that's how games should be. This has been a problem for way too long, and maybe Microsoft is finally willing to do something extremely innovative that they have the infrastructure for to make it possible where everyone can just play the way that they've wanted to play for a long time. But that's what we honestly think. We think that this is pretty obvious just based off of all the evidence we've had over the last year. And we've talked about this before on the channel, but we'd love to hear what you guys think. Would you sign up for an Xbox service as a more of a Netflix type streaming thing if it actually proved to work the way that it's supposed to work on paper? Let us know what you're thinking in the comment section down below. If you're new here though, be sure to subscribe for all things Xbox. We talk about everything ranging from new developments in Xbox all the way back to the good old days of Xbox 360 and before that. So make sure you subscribe if you're new and turn notifications on, and we'll see you all next time with a brand new video.